Welcome everyone who's here. It's delightful to see so many people. We've got coming up for 300 attendees now, which is fantastic. This event, as you can see from our lovely backdrops, is being brought to you by the European Illustrators Forum. And I've put a link to that into the chat, so you can check out more about what we do, more details there. I'm Derek Brazel. I'm EIF co-president and publications and membership manager at the UK's Association of Illustrators, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all. So the European Illustrators Forum has been in existence for, well, since 2003, I've realised, which actually is our 20th anniversary. We're a network of 17 national associations of illustrators in European countries, representing thousands of illustrators, providing a platform for contact and meetings between the associations. And you can find a list of the associations here. I'm just about to stick that into chat. So that's part of our website, but that details all the various associations who are part of the EIF. So we hold regular meetings of the group online and where possible in person at events such as the Bologna Children's Book Fair and the Frankfurt Book Fair. This gives us a really useful perspective on the issues facing illustrators in Europe, and each organisation is able to feed into their experiences back into the group. If you're watching today and if you're aware of an association in your country who is not a member of the EIF, please ask them to get in touch with us. We always welcome more members, and we haven't got representation from every single country, so please let us know if you've got any organisations in your country. So our focus at EIF is on protecting the rights of illustrators in Europe, improving contract standards and pricing within the industry. And this has resulted in campaigns such as Price It Right, which was a campaign aimed at supporting illustrators and commissioners in confident pricing and negotiation, and events at the book fairs on such subjects as contracts, publishing contracts, licensing artwork, self-promotion for your work, and more. And we've recently undertaken a diversity survey of illustrators across Europe, and we'll be publishing the results of that in the near future. So please keep an eye on the EIF website for our announcements on the analysed results, which should be coming fairly soon. As individual illustrators, you will recognise that we are all stronger together, and we encourage you to join the organisation in your country to receive support from them, but also to support their existence, as they're all working towards improving conditions for illustrators. And as we're aware, there are lots of challenges. Generative artificial intelligence is one of the biggest things to hit world headlines in a long time. It is more accurately defined as machine learning, as there is no actual intelligence being used in the generation of images, texts, music, audio, code, and more by artificial intelligence. It's captured people's attention because we hadn't fully realized that AI could make inroads into the creative arena. And this, of course, is one of the aspects that alarms us all as illustrators. You know, what are people's reactions? How will AI change the illustration marketplace? Is generative AI going to be used extensively by illustration commissioners to form their own images, and so remove potential commissions from us as illustrators? Generative platforms train their AI on vast numbers of images that have been scraped from the internet by data mining. Can we get compensation for this use of our work? What are the legal issues? Is the use of our images without permission a copyright infringement? What is current EU legislation saying? We'll discuss these aspects today, alongside the other important side of AI, which is how illustrators can use it as a tool. Maybe we're the best people best placed to do that. And illustrator and motion director Tobias Wustenfeld will be giving us a short introduction on how generative AI works, which would be really useful to give those of us a sense of how these things can be used in a positive way. After Tobias, we have 4 speakers discussing ongoing developments in generative artificial intelligence and its impact on the illustration industry. So I'd like to welcome our panel, who you can see above me. First off, illustrator, artist, and academic Paolo Rui, who has been involved with the European Illustrators Forum and the Italian organization for illustrators and comic artists, Associazione Autori di Immagini, I'm going to get this wrong, for many years. Nurgül Şenefe, who is president of the Illustrators Platform and founding president of the Children's Book Writers and Illustrators Society in Turkey. She is also a writer, translator, and editor. Author and illustrator Karina Birkenstock, who is on the board of the German Illustratoren organization and sits on panels for the Deutsche Design Tag and the Deutsche Kulturrat. And finally, Italian illustrator, comic book artist, and art director Francesco Archidiacono, who is a founding member of the European Guild for AI Regulation. Our speakers will have around 20 minutes each on their various subjects. We'll have time for questions and answers towards the end. Please type your questions into the chat section or the question box. And if it is not a general question, please indicate which speaker you are aiming your question at so we know who to pose that question to. I think we've enabled closed captions. Might need to check that. If we haven't, we'd like to get closed captions working. Let me see. I can't see them down there, but hopefully they are. So if you'd like to read what we're saying, click the CC button at the bottom. To let you know, the session is being recorded, and we will make this available at a point in the future from the EIF website. We can't give you an exact date yet, but we will aim to do this as soon as we can. We ask that you please remain on mute with your microphones to manage any background noise. And obviously, you don't need your camera on if you prefer not to. That's completely fine. So many thanks to everybody. And what we'll start off with now is presentation from Tobias, who will start us off with insights into how artists can use AI. So over to you.
Yeah, hello everybody. I just start to share my green screen right away. I hope you can see this. So yeah, I'm Tobias Lüsefeld. I'm from Hamburg, Germany, and I'm an illustrator. And I don't know, my view on AI pretty much changed over the time. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the usage in the past. So this was 2015, where I first came in contact with AI, which was basically Deep Dream, a system which could see dogs everywhere, and you could put in your image and get it some sort of dog over there. Then 3 years ago, I think, end of 2019, I got into the project where we use GPT-2 and train some sort of Sigmund Freud doodle, so that the audience of an Austrian art festival could talk to him. And for that we use GPT-2, which is the predecessor of ChatGPT. So I trained my own AIs a few years ago. For that, as it's broadly discussed, you need a lot of data. And for me, it was back then crucial to have most of the data from my side. So I spent a few weeks creating these 3D characters here. But then I also must admit, I scraped some data from the internet, and I had some data that I scraped where I exchanged eyes or did some changes. If you know, it's pretty straightforward. You just put the images into a folder, and then usually it starts by noise. This time not, because it was already trained, but then from the data, it gets more and more towards the data. And here I didn't like the eyes, as I told, and so I got back and exchanged the eyes on a few thousand characters, and so it learned a different kind of eyes. So it will always only learn what's inside the data set. Here you can see the training over time on a more broader view. Then if you have this network, you can do fine-tuning. That's something that's also often used nowadays with stable diffusion and so on. For that, I created like 100 to 200 clay figures and photographed them from different directions and so on. And then the fine-tuning process is actually much faster than the overall training. I think the overall training took the computer something like 2 months, and the fine-tuning is only something like which it takes 1 or 2 days, because the AI already knows concepts like eyes and noses and so on. Yeah, and in the end, at this system, which is StyleGAN 2, you have then have the possibility to interpolate between the different images, or the systems are quite good at interpolating. That's where they are really strong at. Now I'm going to talk a little bit how AI works, but I must admit I'm no programmer, and I try to keep it fairly simple so that the basic concepts can be understood, hopefully. So first of all, you need to turn the data you have into some sort of vector representation. If you have an image, it's fairly straightforward. You have the pixels, which have like the red, green, blue value. So you already have some sort of three-dimensional vector, which you can pretty easy plug into a neural network. For text, it isn't that easy, because every letter doesn't make sense to put a number to it. So 2017, they came up with a transformer network, and this is a network which is most often used, and it's like finding some abstract form or some data distribution for each word. For example, if you have the word dog, the data distribution might look something like this, or if you have the word chasing, it might look something like this. And if you put them both together on the same canvas, the word chasing will influence the word dog. So maybe if it's it's less likely a lap dog, but it's more likely some sort of hunting dog. And also this other way around, the chasing will influence, the dog will influence the word chasing. So this you can then plug on top of a neural network and let the data some sort of flow through the layers. And out comes a new word, maybe in this case it's cat. And this you can put on top again, and it will form a new distribution, influence each other words. And so this is the way ChatGPT or the text models work. Like you basically feed in the word again and again. During learning, you actually know what's the next word, and that's the whole process of if AI learns the weight. So the middle part here is adjusted in such a way that it most likely predicts the outcome. And this wouldn't work without the data. So there are different kinds of models. For example, this StyleGAN model I used will start with a single number, and then the network will get more complicated and bigger over time. But without any guidance, it will only produce noise, different noise patterns. So what Ian Goodfellow came up with in 2014, I think, have it connected to a second AI, which is which only gets the forgery from the generator here on the left and the image from the data set here. And so it can tell if it's the purpose of the AI on the right side is to only tell if it's truth or false, and this will guide the generator on the left. And so they both over time get better and better at doing their jobs. But now a short journey from what actually happens in this nowadays the systems. How is what's happening with the data? Here is, for example, an illustration I did, which is on the website of Illustration X. And what happens now is Lion. They are actually based here in Hamburg. They take the image and download it, and the first thing they do, they pass it through the clip network. And the clip is designed in such a way you have also two AIs in this case. One is for images and one is for descriptions. And they both put out some data distribution down there. And what you do is you compare the data distributions to match it most closely. So in the end, you have a system which is which lets you connect text and image. So Lion puts my image in there and gets some embedding, and that's what they not sell, but what they they provide the link together with the data distribution down there. And there is something funny. If you look at this embedding, actually, that's what the clip AI saw in my image. Is he got something right? Like, for example, a group of horses and paper art is pretty right, but there also it was addressed to some other artists which aren't me. So the whole Greg Rutkowski thing is probably also because the clip network did some wrong attributions, and so every acrylic painting might be somehow be connected to Greg Rutkowski as well. So yeah, and there's another thing Lion does. They do some aesthetic predictions. So this is what the average data set should look like, but they do like aesthetic weights, and this is how if you only choose the high weights, you also get only the high quality illustrations and photography. So they provide this, like the data set here, and often also a few images are doubled. I think I found more than 200 images for me in the data set. After that, it's downloaded by companies like Stable Diffusion or Stability AI or yeah, Midjourney and all the others. The Midjourney thing is relying on the same principle like Stable Diffusion. So I explained the Stable Diffusion here a bit. So what Stable Diffusion does, it takes in the image and also puts it through a network which gets smaller, and out comes a very sparse representation of the image. So it's mainly only the concepts or something like this. And both of these AIs are trained in such a way that first the input should match the output. So in this case, they really have something like a compression algorithm on this level, but they go further. They want to work down there on this level. This is only something like the borders around the model. So in this lower dimensional space, they do pretty much something like a new AI, which does the noise prediction. It's shown image and noise, and it should predict what is actually the noise. And this removal of noise is again guided by CLIP. I don't know if I mentioned it, but CLIP was provided by OpenAI, and this is for open source, and this is what got this whole thing started like a few years ago. So so the model learns step by step to get better at predicting more and more noise, always guided by the text input by the CLIP model. So if I now generate something after the training is done, for example, then step by step from the noise, the CLIP will find a new image. In this case, I just put in the prompt that the CLIP predicted from my image back, and I get something like this. It's not exactly the same image, but maybe a little bit different. So yeah, this is pretty much how the process looks. It somehow might switch to different concepts and find other stuff again there. Yeah. So yeah, I think nowadays everyone heard this thing, how this works. You type in a text and get out the image in the end. So what I want to point out again, it's really crucial to know there isn't, even if there isn't the exact image inside the network within the middle, the data is absolutely crucial to form these connections here. These weights are based only on the data. Without data, the AI is nothing. And there is no programmer who sits there and says, like, if you want to do a paper horse, you should do something like this. So without data, there is nothing. And the weights, actually, the thing in the middle, there, I heard different things, what they might be called. I also heard they might be called algorithms. And if you compare how many algorithms the programmers provide to the AI and how many algorithms are provided by the data, then the amount of effort put into these algorithms is fairly small from the programmers, pretty big from the side of the data providers. So one more small thing I want to say is glaze. That's actually another AI which can alter your image and somehow protect it, because if you have this sort of protection, your images will look like this to the AI. So this is actually a way to harm these AIs. I looked at the embeddings of this image, for example, afterwards, and here the AI already got it wrong, like people riding on the back of horses, and stuff like that. So I really can recommend to use glaze to protect your images. Thanks. Yeah, I hope this was a fast overview.
Great, thank you for that, Tobias. Really useful. It's fascinating stuff because it's trying to understand what's actually happening in the depths with all that machine learning is rather complicated, but it's really useful to have a sense and understanding of how it actually gets put together. I put some links actually in the chat if people want to see glaze, and also a link to the Leon database, which you may be aware is getting close. It took close to 6 million images from the internet, so it's got a lot of stuff to work with.
5 billion, it's actually.
Sorry, billion, yes, not million. Yeah, it's even worse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, 6 billion. So it's got a lot of stuff. And there's many issues around it all, especially with a sort of Western bias and, well, many biases built into it.
Actually, the image I showed from Illustration X, I wrote to them they should get it out, and my agency also wrote, but they don't care. So it's
there's I'll put the link in as well. There's a website called Have I Been Trained, which you might be aware of, which you can drag your own images into, and it'll tell you whether your work is in the Leon database. And I found my work in there as well.
Yeah.
So it's it's very concerning stuff. Well, thank you very much for that. And if we can now spotlight Paolo. Paolo's going to be discussing the current status quo versus how the illustration market kind of may change moving forward. So he'll be discussing that for a little while once he's on screen. Yep. Have you got a presentation, Paolo?
Yes, I've got my presentation, but okay, should I start? Okay, or shall you first remove the other one? I try. Okay. Yeah, here it is.
I can still see Tobias's.
Life before AI. Okay, hello everybody. I'm Paolo Rui, and now I'm going to talk about issues which are related to our profession before the explosion that happened last year with when everybody became aware of what AI can do in our job. Okay, so let's start with where is it? Sorry. Okay, never in history we have experienced the production and consumption of images as we are witnessing now. Although there aren't significant statistics specifically related to illustrations, even if this represents just a fraction of the 1.2 trillion pictures taken in 2022, we realize that the numbers are quite astounding. And it's a trend which is increasing year by year. The global democratization of image usage skyrocketed during the digital era, and it's safe to say that the visual content produced in 2023 alone surpasses everything created in human history until the year 2000. So we are in a situation where there is a vast and growing market for illustrations, with more illustrators graduating or teaching themselves commercial art than ever before. The demand for illustrations is rising, and there is an abundance of professionals ready to meet this demand. While this may seem like an ideal situation, it's not without its challenges, because I will show you from now on and explain in this presentation which are the issues that can seriously affect our work now that AI is entering the mainstream. So we start with the... before I start talking about those issues, I would like to give you a short note about the fact that as in all areas of human activities, there is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And therefore, not all clients are unfairly exploiting illustrators and authors. And it's quite the contrary, actually. And those who behave correctly, actually, they should deserve our praise because they are working in an environment of unfair competition with others. And so they spend more to obtain something like is the same product that they want to create. So we must praise them for the work they keep doing. So today we concentrate mostly on those who don't behave well. And we start from the market. Okay. The market offers us quite a few challenges for us. Okay, the first challenges are like this. The one, sorry if I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm kind of emotional today. So many people today, so I'm not used to talking in front of so many people. Life for illustrators before AI. Okay, challenges the market. Frequent distortion of market supply and demand rules. For instance, there are many illustrators available for this job. So if you don't like our offer, we can find somebody else. Frequent abuse of dominant position. Do you want to work with us? These are the rules, take it or leave it. Widespread lack of respect and understanding by commissioners for creators and the value of illustration. In the speed of a distant and often shallow work relationship with occasional clients, there's not much space for empathy and appreciation of an illustrator's creative effort. Illustration becomes a product and its author just a cog in a machine. Widespread use of unbalanced contracts. Many such agreements request copyright assignments far beyond the initial scope of the first usage without any adjustment of the offered or agreed fee. Then we have widespread use of inappropriate forms of agreements, such as for work for hire contracts. This kind of agreements may deprive illustrators of their copyrights and treat them as plumbers, electricians, or window cleaners rather than authors. And then we have widespread offering of low fees and more interest in shareholders' happiness than on authors' needs and rights. In a highly competitive market where positive balance sheets are the ultimate goals, the easier way to cut costs is on the variable and weak part of the production line, which is authors and illustrators. Then we have frequent copycat attitudes of new players who base their business model on the above trends and habits. It happens that new agencies and publishers and clients improvise their activity by downloaded contracts, models, or agreements from the internet that don't reflect the balanced character that a client-illustrator business relationship should have. Lack of recognition for the value of research and development carried out by illustrators within the industry. Innovation is necessary, but clients seldom give illustrators credit for such continuous effort, which is simply considered part of the job and not worth mentioning or gratifying any further. General devaluation of illustration due to the ever-expanding of prepackaged images offered by image banks. The need to produce instant content for news outlets at light speed has contributed to the misunderstanding that illustration is a quick product that cannot cost much, because in the ever-expanding availability of ready-to-go illustrations. As an example now, I'm going to show you a series of illustrations. Mostly, all of them are digital, actually. Some are photo illustrations, therefore they are based in part completely on illustration, and so they're basically some digital collage. On the same subject, in this case, is the relationship between the US and China. Some have some dignity, some less so, but what they have all in common is the fact that some illustrators try to make a living working on series of very quick illustrations that they know someone somewhere one day might need. This mass production of images in the end becomes for some a way to barely make ends meet, but for many others means the loss of jobs and the lowering of fees. As individuals, we surely must think for ourselves, but nevertheless, we have a responsibility towards others. Some illustrators sign their works with their own names, others prefer to use a pseudonym, likely to differentiate the very commercial illustrations from those with higher artistic value. So these, you see many samples from iStock and other famous image banks. For your information, the fees for illustrators and photographers are paid as royalties in percentages that are, as an average, are a few euro cents per image per month. You do the calculations on how many images you have to produce in 1 month in order to pay the rent. Yeah. And this is just a small window on just on this tiny subject. If you go and look for them, you're going to find thousands. Some have been used also on the BBC website. So it's quite astonishing how many people are concentrated on the same subject beforehand. Then we have the public. The further challenges come from the relationship that the public has with our work. Okay, number one is the underestimation of the cultural and social value of illustration. The sociological impact of illustration on everyday life can range from subtle to substantial, depending on where one lives. However, its pervasiveness in developed economies makes it an integral part of the visual environment we are exposed to since birth. Illustrators add colors to life, but its value often becomes apparent only when it's absent. Then we have a limited understanding of the meaning of copyright, both in moral and economic terms. Most of what surrounds us in our daily life is covered by one form or other of legal protection, including industrial and copyright. But if professionals themselves often lack a deep understanding of these issues, it's far more challenging for the general public to grasp their meaning. Quick image consumption and limited interest in these issues. In the rapid flow of crossfire or of image on social media, where dozens or hundreds of them are viewed in seconds, it's natural for people to overlook the intrinsic value of individual pieces. Accustomed to enjoy free content. Once one gets accustomed to free content, something that should be exceptional becomes given for granted, thereby diminishing its perceived value. Then we have institutions. Institutions, of course, situations may vary according to the country you're living in, okay, all right? But so these are just general issues that might affect some of us in some moments of our lives. So we have the impact of external factors such as COVID-19 on the income and livelihoods of freelance illustrators. Freelancers in various fields face similar challenges as the relative freedom they enjoy comes at the cost of uncertainty. When natural disasters or misfortunes strike, governments often struggle to address the needs of such diverse group. Widespread lack of attention and understanding of issues related to the illustration industry. Direct lobbying with institutions is necessary, but it can be time-consuming for organizations like the EIF and others. And by the time the new regulations are implemented, they may already be outdated or in need of reviewing. Limited interest in a marginal side of the economy like the illustration industry, and that's a problem. Then we have lack of control. There is no regular or mandatory state oversight of contracts and agreements in this field, leaving illustrators on their own when navigating the complexities of legal terminology. Costly legal defense. Even when clients require the signing of legally incorrect agreements, it falls to the illustrator to go to court and defend his or her rights. However, this is often not worth pursuing due to the low fees and compensations and the high costs associated with legal defense. And then we have illustrators themselves. In the wider illustrator considered in the widest term, the widest sense of the term. Widespread lack of awareness regarding their own rights. Basic knowledge of copyright should ideally be taught in school, but until that becomes a reality, many illustrators remain unaware of copyright principles in their own country and know even less about foreign working environments. Widespread lack of understanding the value of their own work. Many illustrators, especially early in their careers, struggle to determine fair compensation for the time and the rights they assign with their work. Widespread lack of negotiating skills. Experience helps, but it's not always sufficient. Then we have widespread perception of unfair business practices and widespread perception of being exploited. These last two issues can be detrimental because one's mood can certainly affect work quality and, as a consequence, a less enjoyable professional life. Fortunately, many are aware of these problems and are willing to learn more to overcome them and lead a more fulfilling professional life. Besides, as we'll see shortly, there are ongoing actions such as today's conference. Illustrators training. Another serious challenge comes from the way professional art education is taught. There is a limited availability and stress on the importance of professional training. Most art schools and academies rightfully prioritize the development of their students' artistic expression over non-artistic business and professional skills. However, this can result in a challenge when both illustrators and art directors, which come from the same schools, enter the job market with insufficient awareness and preparation regarding these issues. Then they might adapt to a business model that is already chronically affected by the above mentioned trends and habits. There are solutions, and the EIF, European International Illustrations Associations, are working in this direction. Talking about solutions to the problems affecting our profession, let's start from the fact that when we grow up, we soon realize that law and justice are not synonyms, and illustrators' understanding of fair practice very often differs from what the market applies. It surely can be a reality shock, especially for those who start their careers unprepared and thus have to move in what is for them the uncharted territory of negotiation. As for many years the illustration market has become global, it's now necessary to cooperate at an international level in order to share know-how and find common ways to respond to such a rapidly evolving work environment. Okay, as Derek previously said, EIF was founded actually in 2004, but in 2003 there was the first international meeting in Spain when illustrators associations from all over Europe met and tried to move the first steps in order to create a larger organization. So the keywords for the activities carried out by these associations and organizations is awareness. Raising awareness on both sides of those who create illustrations and those who need and use them is fundamental to have a common ground and a better work environment for all. The before-mentioned issues and challenges as emerging in the recently completed EIF diversity survey are perceived by a large part of the illustrators community negatively as potential obstacles affecting their professional career and well-being. These evidently include a gender-based discrimination affecting female illustrators and a disparity in treatment in already perceived as a stagnating fees. So, as Derek mentioned before, now I show you some images because these are nice. We carried out a series of campaigns which were based to create awareness around Europe. So the first one was Price It Right. Then we had the Keep Your Copyright campaign. Then there was a local local Spanish initiative, which is called the Ninja Guide for Illustrators, which was a funny booklet describing the world of illustration and ways to overcome issues related to negotiation and sometimes misunderstanding by part of the commissioners of what illustrators' rights are. then we have something like the resources offered by the AOI, the British Illustrators Association, which is a series of information and models that can support an illustrator's career, especially when they had to try to work in an area where they never were before. Also, other associations have offer similar resources, but you have to check in each website to find what they offer. Okay, this is just a presentation, a general presentation. Then there are associations which occasionally produce the books where they describe with the support of legal and commercial and accountant advice, books which are guides to the profession, like this one, the white book created by the Spanish FEDIP, Federation of Illustrators FEDIP. This one, which has just been issued by the Illustrators Platform in Turkey. And this elegant one, which was produced recently by the Illustrators Organisation in Germany. In Italy, we have also a group on Facebook where we just deal with professional issues, where experts, some are not even members of the association, some are publishers, are directors, photographers, lawyers. They respond to questions posed by many illustrators who have doubts related to their activity. And then we have a model, a very interesting experience, which is the one carried out by the IAF, the International Authors Forum, which is an umbrella organization that is taking care of the protection of the rights of hundreds of thousands of authors all around the world, which carries out a work which is very similar to what we at EIF we do for illustration. So in a few years ago, they published these beautiful 10 principles for fair contracts, and now we are going to read just the titles. If you go to their website, you just check international authors, you're going to find them, IAF International Authors. You can find these 10 principles, which are very clearly stated. In themselves, they help understand very well what are the major issues related in contracts related to copyright assignment. So we have the contracts should not be forever. Artists should share the success of their creation. Artists' copyright should be respected. Party being granted the right must use it or lose it. Ensure artists, work can reach the broadest possible audience, maximizing return for artists. Contractual commitment to protect and secure the works from unauthorized use. Safeguard the respect for authorship and the integrity of the works. Safeguard artists' future availability and the ability to work. Clearly defined contract terms and responsibilities with an agreed definition of vague terms like reasonable or non-commercial. A balance between risk and profit. Okay, for each of these terms, there is an explanation of how clients often face this issue and what we want to offer as a positive, constructive response. To end my presentation, I would like to begin to raise some awareness among this excellent audience by reminding you that illustrators are part of the CCI, the cultural and creative industry, which is protected under the 2005 UNESCO Convention on Protection and Promotion of Cultural Diversity, which is also among the 17 goals of the 2030 UN Agenda for Sustainable Development. So in a few words, as illustrators, we are a protected species, and we should let our clients know about that, because it's really important, because through awareness and knowledge comes respect. And to end my presentation, I want to say we are all dinosaurs if compared to the potential of unregulated generative AI. And as we surely don't want to get extinct by these fascinating entities, so we better get together and transform a threat into a beneficial opportunity. That's why we must join forces in order to assess the situation together and reach constructively on the underlying issues just described here that affect negatively a wonderful job. So join your national association and support your actions, their actions, our actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paolo. That's really interesting stuff. And it's good to have this understanding of running a business behind everything, because it's true that creative people often feel that the creation of the work is the most important thing. But of course, if you want to make some income and some money from your creative thing, then you've got to be running your business as a business and ensuring that you're thinking about fees and the position and respecting your own work and understanding its value. So great stuff. Thank you very much. Next up, we have Nurgül Şenefe, and she will be talking about the different reactions to AI developments from within the illustration community and thinking about how illustrators stay competitive whilst also passionately protecting their craft. So many thanks. Over to you, Nurgül.
Well, thank you, Derek. Let me share my screen as well. Well, first off, I'd like to welcome everyone. I am Nurgül, attending from Istanbul, Turkey. I'm the founding president of Illustrators Platform, as Derek mentioned, and a board member of EIF. Today in this webinar, I will be covering illustrators' reactions and their perception of AI-generated art, supported with a survey, which we have very recently conducted, and probably some of you already participated in that survey. I will also go briefly on how AI has changed the landscape of art and illustration and why it is important for the illustrator, maintaining competence and adapting to the changing industry in this digital age. If I don't exceed my time, I like to step into very briefly the feature of illustration as general predictions and the strategies for the illustrators to stay competitive and creative. Let me share my screen now. Can you see my presentation? I'm using 2 screens. Okay, perfect. So as you can see in my agenda, I'll go through mainly for the first item and cover up a little bit second item. And if I have some time left, I'll go through with the third item, and I will be sharing with you the survey results, and we'll go through with them together. Yes, and how AI has changed the landscape of art and illustration. I pointed out some items here. We can, of course, extended items, but I try to stay focused on certain points. Those are very important for the time being. Imagine a world where the very essence of an artist's creation could be shaped by anyone, anywhere, any scale, and without their consent. It is happening actually at the moment. It's a feature that challenges the very foundations of artistic expansions and intellectual property as we know it. The stark reality is that in this age of AI, copyright alone may not be the fortress we once thought it to be. Legal process, probably you all can keep those who are following what is happening in the world art industry at the moment, the legal process is really having a hard time and naturally cannot keep up with the speed of technology. This is the main problem we are facing today. There are no guarantees that copyright will be enough sufficient to protect artists from AI training, assuming it will take longer time than it requires. And there's a need for that. While the legal battles over the fate of copyrighted works unfold beyond our control, what we do have in our power is the ability to pioneer a new era of collaborative and consent-driven interactions with artist data. A new era offers us the opportunity to reconfigure how we treat IP, our IPs, We believe that the best path forward is to offer individual artists tools to manage their style and likenesses and determine their own comfort level with a changing technology landscape. I need to mention one thing here, that our focus is not on stifling creativity, on pursuing individuals for experimenting with the works of others, or there are many artists now who is using AI, start doing personalized AI, generative AI. So instead, our concern centers around the industrial scale of artist training data, where the lines between inspiration and appreciation blur. Now, when we take a look into initial reaction and perception of illustrators on AI, we notice that there are still a lot of artists who don't have the necessary awareness that AI is entering as a mainstream and the impact of AI-generated art brings to art world and the artists' professional lives. As EIF, we took initiative to do many events to create awareness among artists, while we are united with many other societies and associations around the world and taking necessary actions on this matter. Upcoming slides, I will be sharing the result of our survey. But before, I would like to share my findings while reading the survey result, and of course, enriched with my research on this matter. There is a mix of feelings about AI in art. I'm sure when you're chatting with your teammates, friends in the creative industries who's taking part, we all have those ups and downs and confusions. So we found out that there are still a lot of mixed feelings about AI in art, including uncertainty, curiosity, concerns about creativity and ethics. Illustrators, artists also face technical challenges, but saw opportunities for collaborating and experimenting with AI as well. We can say there are complexity of illustrators' reactions and perceptions. It's essential to acknowledge the diverse range of perspectives within the artistic community and how these perspectives have evolved over time. Let's explore the initial reactions and perceptions of illustrators a little more deeper. When I pointed out those items here, I covered around 14 main points, and one of the number one was skepticism and concerns among artistic community. Many illustrators initially viewed AI-generated art with skepticism and concern. Skepticism, sorry, I am having a hard time pronouncing it right. Skepticism and concern. They worried that AI might replace human artists and diminish the value of their skills. The second top point was fear of job displacement. Illustrators were concerned that the rise of AI in art might lead to job displacements, which we are actually hearing in different marketplaces. This has started already. As some routine and repetitive tasks could be automated, potentially reducing the demand for human illustrators. The third point was curiosity. Some illustrators were curious about the possibilities AI offered. They saw AI as a tool that could enhance their creative process and open up new artistic avenues. And there's always this mixed emotions. Many illustrators had feeling both excited and apprehensive about the integration of AI into their work. They were interested in exploring AI's potential, but were also cautious about its limitations. So some illustrators embraced AI as a collaborative partner rather than a threat. They saw opportunity to work alongside AI tools, leveraging their expertise to guide and refine AI-generated elements. When we look at the adaptation and learning part, forward-thinking illustrators recognize the need to adapt and learn how to use AI tools effectively. They understood that staying updated with technological advancements was essential to remaining competitive. Of course, there are ethical and artistic concerns will take place for some time. Illustrators raised ethical questions about AI-generated art, including issues related to intellectual property, originality, the authenticity of art produced by machines. Artistic freedom versus automation and artistic identity and style. When we take a deep look into that part, some illustrators felt torn between the desire for artistic freedom and the convenience of automation. They had to strike a balance between maintaining their artistic integrity and using AI for efficiency. Illustrators grappled with maintaining their unique artistic identity and style while incorporating AI into their work. And there has been some emotional connections as well. Illustrators highlighted the emotional connections that weavers often have with handmade or human-created art, emphasizes that AI-generated art might lack the same emotional depth and renaissance. Over time, as illustrators gained more experience with AI, their attitude evolved. Many began to appreciate AI as a valuable tool that could enhance their work, save time, and enable them to explore new creative possibilities. Besides what I've been pointing out, there are a few additional points to consider when discussing the initial reactions and perception of illustrators, which I would like to share with you as well. One is in terms of technical skills and learning curve. Many illustrators initially felt overwhelmed by the technical aspects of using AI tools. They had to invest time and effort in learning how to operate these tools effectively. There are concerns about artistic authenticity, and some illustrators questioned whether AI-generated art could be considered automatic or truly artistic. They pondered the role of human creativity and emotions in art compared to AI's algorithmic output. We know that there are collaborations with AI developers taking place too. Some illustrators sought, meaning wanted, collaboration with AI developers and researchers to provide input and feedback on AI tools, aiming to shape these technologies to a better suit the need of artists. And of course, ethical concerns extended to the responsible and fair use of AI in art. Illustrators discussed the importance of acknowledging the source of AI-generated elements and respecting copyright and intellectual property rights. Forward-thinking, illustrators recognize the potential for using AI-generated art as a springboard for artistic experimentation. They explored ways to incorporate AI-generated elements into their works as a means of pushing creative boundaries. For instance, making art tasks got easier. AI can help with boring and repetitive things like coloring, resizing, removing backgrounds, so artists can focus on the fun and creative parts. Creating art with AI helps artists to generate art based on different styles and ideas. It's like having an AI art assistant on your desk. Trying new style much easier and even fun, some illustrator says. AI can take an artwork and change style, which lets artists experiment with different looks. Like Tobias was mentioning at his presentation, some of them actually refers to his presentation here. Adding fine details now much faster. Patterns, textures, without artists having to do all the work. And of course, it makes some saving on time and money. But while AI offers many benefits to artists and illustrators to do their art more easily and gives them new ways to be creative, it is important to emphasize that it is a tool to augment creativity, not replace it. Artists still bring unique perspectives, emotions, storytelling abilities that AI cannot replace. Therefore, it's crucial for all of us to embrace AI as a tool to enhance artistic works rather than looking at it in a perception of replacement. We need to keep in mind the use of AI in art still raises questions about intellectual property rights, copyright issues, ethical concerns regarding originality, authorships. And when AI is used in art, there can be questions about who owns the art and if it's been consent from original artist from its own copyright owner, and if it's okay to use it. There are important things to think about. I would like to get onto my survey. The survey participated countries about 13. We want to continue on this survey after this webinar as well. So if you could spread around your community and friends, it would be giving us good feedback for all of us to extend our work we are doing as a community for illustrators. So we have participants from 13 countries. Participant age range is about 18 to 65. Number of participants attended the survey is about 300, and 1/3 is from local Turkish market, and 1/4 is from Europe. Participants profile majority is illustrators, graphic designers, artists, but there are some lecturers, academicians from universities, writers, publishers, art directors, students. So we have variety of participants from different profiles. We can see the age range. I especially wanted to put 2 different markets. As I said, we want to continue to do this survey or similar one on continuous basis to keep an eye on the marketplace. When I put this 2 pages together, we can see, depending on there are variations in opinions based on the country, culture, age groups. That's what I wanted to show you here. Additionally, another crucial point that it got in my attention while I was studying on this survey was participants, majority of them haven't yet started using artificial intelligence, yet they tend to have either very positive or very negative perspectives. So let's take a look at it together. I'm using 2 screens, so yeah, let me go there. I noticed that the most common age was 23, 25, 33, 35. But when I look at the Europe, the most common age was 30, 40, 43. The range of the ages was both the same, 18 to 61, 62. So one of our questions was, how long have you been working professionally in art or illustration? So when we look at the Europe, the major participants actually has experience more than 10 years. So it's 10 to 15 years to more than 15 years has the majority of the attendees. When we look at the local market, it's right opposite. Actually, 1 to 5 years experienced professionals has attended to the survey.
Nurgül,
So,
sorry to interrupt. You've got about 2 minutes left. So maybe if we
okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So instead of me explaining all these graphics, we can share that later. I can go very briefly and show you the graphic shapes. So among the participants, you can see usually it's Europe or local market. I make the separate definitions and put the results together. Some parts, Europe sees it more threat. Here, it's right opposite in local market. They don't see it as a threat. 77% sees it as an opportunity. When we look at the European market, it says, is it mostly positive or negative, the impact of AI? Mostly it says negative in Europe, which is more experienced in the illustration market audience. And when we look at the local market, mainly it says positive, almost 70%, almost similar. So when we look at have you personally used AI art generators for creating art or illustrations? This is pretty much the same in both markets. The majority of participants, they have not used AI or experienced AI yet. So this says which type of AI art generator do you use more often, custom trained or pre-trained, both? Mostly it says I don't use AI, and other than that, pre-trained. So they've been using other artists' work when they are working on AI. And how do you feel about using AI art generators in your art? And mostly your part, it says they have doubts and they don't use AI, but majority says easy to use, easy to learn. And some of them says it kills the creativity. And when we look at the local market, the younger generation, they are quite exciting and they think it's useful, and they say they don't have doubts. And as I mentioned, previously on my speech, it gives us the hints, the survey, about the main perception and the awareness level of the illustrators in the marketplace. The another question was, please rate your proficiency in using AI. You can see the figures here again. And what is the source?
Can I interrupt? Can this be the last slide? Because I want to make sure there's time for our other two speakers, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So learn art, AI art, AI generators. You can see the figures here again. And do you think, this is a very important question, using AI generated art for commercial gain goes against copyright law? The majority says they have no idea, and some part says no. So it again shows in the marketplace there's a big gap in terms of awareness of what we are stepping into with this AI generated art. There were some comments from survey participants, so I will just skip that. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, and these are our websites, you'll have more information about European Guild for Artificial Intelligence regulations. And I'm done with my presentation. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And sorry for having to shorten things a bit, but that's all really fascinating stuff. And it's good to bring up all these.
It was challenging for me to stick up with all these results on the survey and keep up with the 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry for yeah.
But we'll hopefully be able to make this information available maybe on the EIF website.
Yes, we can. We will.
Yeah.
Probably with the audio recording, we can provide this so everybody can have a deeper look in it. The more dig in, you get more awareness about what the marketplace is and the different perceptions and the awareness level of the artist. Yeah,
that's great. Brilliant. I love hearing all these different perspectives. It's really useful for us, the whole audience, I think, to see all these different ideas and also what other people are thinking. It's really important. Thank you so much. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I would like to bring on Karina Birkenstock, and she'll be giving us an overview of the legal issues surrounding generative AI, plus looking at the initiatives of creator organizations around Europe to help protect illustrators' rights. So Anna Karina, if we can.
Yeah, thank you, Derek. So I must say I'm no lawyer, so I will give you a quick overview, but I'm not the expert if you have any legal deep dive questions. So actually, I want to give you a quick overview how where the problems are, the legal problems, and of course for us, the problems where we don't get money for things, and where the EU AI Act is heading, which will be probably discussed by the end of the year and then be put into law. Tobias explained to you that we need a lot of data to do AI, to do machine learning. And where does the data come from? From you, from the internet. And you see here all the happy artists who show their work in the internet. And so everyone can take them. And especially in the European Union, we have the text and data mining law that allows companies to mine, so to get images and text from the internet for research purposes. So it was perfectly legal for a company like Leon AI, which is situated in Germany, to get all the 5 billion or 6 billion, I don't know, images to train the artificial intelligence. So now then they sold their data set to Stable Diffusion, and they are stating on their website that you can create an image with Stable Diffusion, and this image is automatically under the Creative Commons license. So you it's a public domain license. So you have no exclusive rights on this image. So this is the state which is now on the website. So if you go to Stable Diffusion and create an image, you have no exclusive rights, but of course you can use it for, I don't know, a cover of your self-written novel and sell this self-written novel on the internet. So you have actually the possibility to earn money with this picture, even if you don't have an exclusive right. In Germany, it's pretty clear that artificial intelligence created image does not have a copyright at all. So somebody uses like a picture which from a machine which has learned making pictures with your artwork, and you don't get any money from it. So the question is, it doesn't sound right? There must be some laws against that, because you show your image in the internet to get like seen, to get money, and somebody uses this. Is this legal or is it not? So the thing is that Leon AI used it for research purposes, but Stable Diffusion is a company who earns money. So there are some laws missing here. The question is, who gets the money, as I said? And of course, you don't get it. But the user who wants to create an image doesn't get money either, because having a prompt is not copyright worthy yet. So if the user has an idea and prompts something, you cannot put this under a copyright. The software company is actually busy with some other stuff. They are more making money with like specific solutions for greater customers, so they don't care. But we have this image, and it apparently has no copyright, and that doesn't seem very like a problem now. So of course, creative people now think, well, we will lose our jobs, we don't get money. So there are some points at which you can now sue some people, and I will show you some example what lawsuits has been made in the US. in the US because they have a different copyright law. And afterwards, I will show you the EU AI Act and what they are trying to do right now and what they are not doing. So you, as Tobias showed you the process of training the data. So at first you need all these pictures. Then the AI company is copying these pictures into their training program. It is then, as Tobias explained, used to train the machine. And then afterwards, as you see there, they throw the pictures away. They don't need them anymore because the AI is trained. But they have copied these pictures. And some smart US creatives said, well, this copying of copyrighted material is against the law. So there, because copyright means you cannot copy it, and they copied it, even though they throw it away. But this is only in the US, because in Germany, as I pointed out, in Europe, you have the right to data mine if you throw the data away and anonymize it. So all the rest is perfectly safe, but in the end, we have an image. So this image can be very close to a picture an actual artist might have been made. So you cannot sue the user who did the image, but you can tell the company, well, you enabled somebody to make a picture which looks just like mine, and it can be mistaken for my picture. So the user, of course, doesn't know if he does a picture, if this picture already exists in a certain way. And the question is, can the AI create a picture which is so similar to an actually existing picture that it can be mistaken and is therefore under the copyright law? I show you the example, what kind of lawsuits have been made. Of course, at first, the first people to sue were the coders. As you might know, in ChatGPT, you can also create code. And numerous coders sued GitHub, Microsoft, and OpenAI for using their code, because GitHub is a platform where you have open source code. Everyone can use it. And Microsoft used this open source code to create code, which Microsoft licensed. So Microsoft actually made money with it. And so it's the other way around. Then artists sued as well. Several artists said, well, this pictures which are created can be mistaken for our works, which can damage our reputation. Maybe you know that in the copyright law, you cannot copyright style. So if I say in the style of Van Gogh and he was still alive, he cannot say, well, this is in my style and this is against the copyright, because style is not protectable. But if somebody creates a work and does it mainly badly, as we see here with Getty images, the AI was trained with Getty images. And if you ever went on the platform and looked at Getty images, they always have their watermark in their picture. So the AI was trained that really great pictures always have this Getty watermark in them, and gave you photographs with a slightly bended, strange looking Getty watermark. So Getty sued Stability AI for damaging their reputation, because you saw like slightly distorted photographs with, they're not even like right with, you know, at first the AI didn't know how to do fingers, but it had the Getty watermark on it. So this is the way you can sue them if you think your reputation is damaged. Text authors also sued OpenAI because they scraped a lot of books from the internet. Some of them were not even like, most of them were copyrighted before, and that also helps, of course, if like famous people sue somebody, like Sata Silverman. She's an author and comedian, and she sued Meta and OpenAI for using her text. Googlebot was sued. Googlebot is ChatGPT from Google, was sued by various anonymous people because they assumed that Google is using their personal data. So this is happening in the US, but here in the EU we have different laws. So of course we have seen the problem. The European countries have seen the problem, and they said, well, we need laws to protect us from artificial intelligence. And at first they rated the risk you have with artificial intelligence. There's an unacceptable risk, which is direct manipulation of behavior, especially to protect children. Social scoring is an unacceptable risk, which I find very, very good, so that we don't get social scoring here. And the biometric identification systems, of course, are unacceptable if you like cannot get into a country because the AI decides that you look or makes a mistake. The next level is a high risk. This is for all transportational devices like cars and lifts, but also for education and migration issues. And then we have the limited risks, and there the EU states, well, we need to make sure that the users can make informed decisions, so that we always know this is an artificial intelligence, and I can decide whether I want it or not. So where to put the generative AI? It's kind of in its old field. They don't know what kind of risk it will be, so they have an own section for generative AI. And of course, it has to respect the laws that are existing. So the companies have to make sure that generative AI does not create works which are directly copyrighted. So they have to make sure. So, but the question is, as I stated earlier, we already have cases where there are images that they are so close to the original, so you cannot decide whether is it the original picture or the artificial intelligence one. So this is the first requirement they have, and it would like go under the low risk. So we want users to decide whether they want artificial intelligence or not. This would mean that generative AI designed pictures had to be marked so that we can make a decision. And they are also looking into the training data. So we will have laws that will define whether the training data has to be copyrighted by the company. Okay. So sorry, I just had like a blackout. The question is now, where does the AI Act focus? And the AI Act focuses clearly on the users. So the users from pictures need to be protected from breaking the law, from making, they have to have the right decision. They are not focusing on the creative people. But as we have learned from Paolo, we are protected species. And therefore, all the illustrators and creative organizations have their own campaign, getting the EU's focus on the creators as well. In Germany, we have a campaign called AI but Fair, and the demands are not only the labeling but also the protection of the creatives and to make the training data transparent, which is also already in the EU AI Act. But also the focus is on appreciation, on protection and promotion of human creativity. So of course the EU law doesn't focus on cultural aspects, but the as Paolo pointed out, the UNESCO does. So we have like two different things. The one, the dry legal side of things, and the one, what do we want? What is desirable for our creativity? So in many European countries, many organizations have started similar campaigns because the first reading of the EU AI Act was like recently in June, and now it's the work of the Parliament to read over it and to get different opinion, and the act should be finished in end of the year, so we still have some time to talk to politicians. And this is the point where you all come in, and we'll lead over to Francesco, because we need you all to get into your national organizations and to support the illustrators and the creative authors to become a loud voice, to emphasize that it's not only about law and protection and decision, but also a cultural decision. What do we want to do with illustrators? How do we want to express ourselves? And how do we want the people to be aware of creativity works of humans versus the creativity work of machines? So I would like then to talk to lead over to Francesco, who will talk about the European Guild for Artificial Intelligence Regulation and his campaigning, Europe-wide campaigning for the illustrators' rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karina. That's excellent overview of what's going on. And you've saved me having to introduce Francesco. He's already got it. It's already there, rolling. Have you got a presentation, Francesco?
Yes, I'm sharing the screen right now, and
Right.
I should be able to present it. Okay, well, thank you, Anna, thank you, Derek. Okay, so I'll just start immediately, and I'll try to stay under 50 minutes. I've set my timer. So today I'd like to talk to you about EGAIR, so our work, but also the main obstacles we are facing. Luckily, Tobias spoke about glaze. So also, by the way, thank you for your excellent presentation, Tobias. It was really very insightful and interesting. So EGAIR. EGAIR is the European Guild for AI Regulation. We are a network of associations and creatives from all over Europe. We have a website, which is www.egair.eu, where you can read our manifesto and find all useful links regarding our activities and how you can help us. So what do? We lobby at the EU level and also at the national level for the protection of creatives, in particularly focusing on the AI Act. We have started working officially in January 2023, but we had begun working before that in October 2022, writing the manifesto and figuring out what we needed to do. Our main focus was and is the AI Act, because when we started working, I'll be quick on this because Anna already explained this, but when we started working, the AI Act wasn't really concerned with the rights of creatives and artists. The AI Act was meant to protect users. In January, the AI Act had been in the works for 3 years at that point, And everyone we talked with, all the politicians, all the members of the European Parliament, they were all adamant in not changing it and having it pass by February as it was. So without any reference to generative AI and artists and creatives in general. This all changed in the span of a month, because in February, by that point, ChatGPT had become really popular and the politicians realized that they had to do something. So the AI Act changed into a more horizontal document dealing with a lot of different things, all related to AI. It is in many ways a superficial document that doesn't go in depth on a lot of things, and we are trying to work and change that to make it more strong as a form of protection. But at least it deals with artists and creators in at least some way. We managed to, through our meetings with members of the parliament, we managed to sneak in Article 28B, which is the one that deals with, that asks for AI providers to offer at this point a summary of the copyright content they used in their training data. We are now working on having this summary becoming a complete list of all the copyright items used. So of course the Act is our main focus and will be probably our main focus during this year and the next year, when all the different governments of Europe will have to turn it into national laws, basically. We managed to do something, but we need to do more. We are also working on reporting AI companies. If you read our manifesto, you'll see that our main focus is on copyright, but also on privacy rights. So we're working with with the European agencies for privacy and data protection, and we are starting to report Stability AI at this point, because the Stability has the data set that can be checked, which is Lion 5B. So we're also working on that, and we also work with other group of interests worldwide, other associations and agencies, to have to coordinate the fight and have everyone on the same positions and to exchange resources. So we work with the Concept Art Association, which is the American association, the collective Artes Etica, and we're also working with people from Japan and in the Japanese government to make sure that the battle is fought everywhere in the same way. So how do we do it? We work with Vera Studio, which is a lobbying agency, a communication agency. They are Italian, and they had previous experiences in lobbying for creative rights. They managed to pass some laws in Italy that protect actors and guarantees that they get rights from platforms such as Netflix. We pay Vera thanks to a fundraising campaign that is currently going on GoFundMe. You can find the link on our website. We have at this point raised 50,000 euros, which is a lot. It helped us cover the first year of work, but since we expect to have more years of work in the future, we hope that we can raise more. So if you can, please donate and help us, because we need a lot of help. All the money go to Vera. We don't see anything. For us, it's just activism, but we need to pay for our agents. So let's talk about opt-out. I wanted to talk about opt-out because it's one of the main obstacles we face when trying to get more protections for artists in Europe, and specifically in the AI Act. First, a general definition. Opt-out is opposed to opt-in. Opt-in means that a user can ask to be included in something. Opt-out means that the user is by default included in something and has to withdraw their consent. When talking about generative AI, we talk about opt-in and opt-out in reference to data sets. So opt-out means that the AI companies have scraped the internet from taking all the data they could find, and now people can opt out, in theory, and ask them to remove these data from the data sets. This, in theory. This is ethically questionable in a lot of ways, of course, because it means that, well, the key principle of opt-in is the consent, of course, while the opt-out is the opposite of consent, is consent by default. And it also puts a heavy burden on the artist or on the user that's to search, usually huge databases of images to find their image, or save their image in a specific way and make sure that everyone that uploads their image online has been... Sorry, someone called me and I was connected here. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. It's not easy to do that. Websites that allow to do that, such as Have I Been Trained, don't really work. In fact, quite the opposite. They are really difficult to navigate, and it's a really time-consuming activity. Furthermore, opt-out doesn't work if the data has already been used by AI companies. The machine learning is impossible. So if someone has used your data, you can opt out from the dataset, but at that point, the machine learning process had already was already done, and so there's nothing you can do about that. And finally, we have no guarantees that it works. Have I Been Trained claims that Stability AI acknowledges opt-out requests and takes out from the dataset opted out images, but we are not sure of that. Furthermore, Stability AI is the only company that does that. OpenAI, Midjourney, they don't even care about that. So it's really not working. So, okay, why does it matter? It matters because it's a part of the EU legislation, and that's our problem. The opt-out was designed and is featured in the Copyright Directive from 2019. The Copyright Directive features 2 exceptions to opt-out in the Articles 3 and 4. The first one is the Article 3 about research. So what Anna was talking about earlier. For research purposes, data can be scraped and used for training without care for copyright, which is what Lion has been doing. But Article 4 talks also of commercial use for scraping. So there is an exception to copyright for commercial use. The only limits to these exceptions are, well, first of all, that the reproductions and the reproduction instructions of the works is from lawfully accessible sources. And this is relevant when we talk about OpenAI and the fact that they had uploaded a website with millions of pirated books, basically. But also the exception doesn't apply if the owner of the data has expressed their opt-out in a machine-readable way. So the bot that scrapes the internet has to be able to read that an image on a website has been opted out, and in theory it's not allowed to scrape it and download it. So what are the problems with this? Well, first of all, the Copyright Directive is from 2019 and was it's from even earlier than that. 2019 was when it was finally voted, which means that it's completely outdated at this point and inadequate. The idea of opt-out was meant as something that would benefit the general public, and so something that was meant to, as it says here, acquire new knowledge and facilitate the discovery of new trends. It wasn't meant to help private companies to get richer in the way these AI companies are doing. It's not clear what machine readable means, again, so there's not a clear definition of that. In theory, images, AIs and bots should be able to read, for example, the C of copyright on an image. Does that work? Is that enough? Apparently not, because as we all know, some of these AIs spit out works that have usually get the images, logos all blurred. So they take those. Is it possible that something machine readable could be a header that's written in the image when uploaded online? But we know that a lot of websites don't care about that. So there are websites that say that they have opt-out options, but actually they host images on other websites that don't have opt-outs. And also an artist usually doesn't have control on how other people upload their images online. Since bots usually scrape from e-shops and e-stores, well, it's impossible to have control on how a publisher uploads your image on Amazon, or how someone uploads a picture of a book on eBay, for example. So this is a problem, of course, because when one of the key points we are trying to pass in Europe is that AI companies should have to ask consent before using someone's data, and in theory also make maybe licenses with artists and similar. And it is difficult to do that because, of course, everyone tells us that this is not something that the copyright directive foresees. The copyright directive says that there is opt-out. The opt-out is the opposite of consent. Everyone in Europe acknowledges that this is an inadequate and outdated thing that needs to be reworked, and there are people that are reworking it at the EU Commission level, but the AI Act, as it stands, cannot deal with it in theory. So is it all lost? Well, no, otherwise we won't be working on lobbying. Us of a guy and also other groups representing other creatives from all Europe, we are lobbying to make people at the EU Commission realize that these companies are not really respecting the copyright directive and the exceptions. Why? Well, because the copyright directive comes from the Berne Convention. The Berne Convention, it specifically refers to the Berne Conventions. And the Berne Conventions talk about copyright exceptions. The Berne Convention says the copyright exceptions must adhere to a three-step test. And one of the steps is that the use of data, so the exception doesn't apply if the data that have been scraped are used in a way that prejudice the legitimate interest of the original right holder. So if a company takes an image that has not been opted out and uses it of someone and uses it to basically make that person lose their job, they are not respecting the Berne Convention, and the copyright exception doesn't apply to that. Furthermore, there's also another important point. The directive of 29 from 2001 says specifically that copyright exceptions have to be anyway adequately compensated for. So AI companies should still compensate people whose data they scrape. The problem is that the Article 3 from the directive claims that all the harms that any right holders would suffer through the exception would be minimal, because as we said, the copyright directive came way before generative AI as we know them. This is a problem, and so we are working at the European level to make sure that institutions understand this, that these AI companies and their business models aren't complying to European laws, European requirements for transparency. To make sure that even if we can pass, okay, my timer is on, so we are at 15 minutes. So even if we can have an AI Act that deals with consent right now, at least we can make sure that by using courts and tribunals, we can make these companies pay for what they have been doing. We will be able to do that once the AI Act passes and we have requirements for transparency from these AI companies. We know also that these AI companies are not really liking these changes in the AI Act. We know that they have been complaining a lot with Europe and institutions because they don't want to offer even summaries of what copyright content they have used, because also it will mean bad for them also when dealing with Americans. But we, of course, we don't care about that. We are happy that they don't like what we've been doing, and we plan to keep doing that. So please, if you can help us, look at our website, and that's it. I had to run a little bit, but I think we are in time, and maybe there's time for some questions.
Yes, there is some time. Thank you very much for keeping that nice and trimmed at 15 minutes. That's great. Yeah, and also kind of thank you on behalf of everyone in Europe for what AGR is doing, because and I think we're all working independently. Sadly, in the UK, we coming in on this European Act, but it's very encouraging that you're working so hard and tirelessly, it seems, on getting all this done. So big thank you to that. Well, the first question probably relates to you, Francesco. It's someone asking about text that you might be able to put on your website that would stop bots reading it. So they're saying, if text saying this, is this useful to protect copyright material? So the quote would be, the use of any of the creative materials found on this website to train, test, or improve any artificial intelligence model is strictly prohibited.
Yeah, the thing is that machine readable? Does the machine reads that? Does that work? Even Facebook Meta has been doing something similar recently, where you can write them and ask them to opt out from, to have your data opted out from their training of AIs. It only relates to data acquired through third parties, so not metadata. But does that work as well? It's difficult. Opt out, well, these companies have not been using it in a really good and transparent way. The thing is that people at EU level have realized that, and so they're not happy with this. So I don't think that writing that really helps you on a website. It's better to use probably headers that are machine readable. Even if companies ignore them, at least they have something that in theory is machine readable, and that that in the future maybe can be used in a court of law or similar.
Yeah, because actually in the UK we were advised by a lawyer that having this kind of wording in your terms and conditions of your website, well, it's kind of as much as you can do almost, but it's worth still putting that there. So if you need to point to it in the future, it's worth having that.
Just I mentioned the best form of protection. Tobias talked about that is definitely glaze. So glaze your images on X, on Meta, post only glazed images, and that's the best way to do that.
Yeah,
that's a safe protection.
Yeah, so that's worth exploring. My understanding is it can take a while to do things, but obviously it's worth looking at how you can get those images protected. Well, we've got a question from B. Willie saying, are there any guidelines or advice for machine readable wording available? I suppose the question is, how does that look? What would it look like in terms of being on a website? Do you know?
It's an header that you have to. It depends on how you save the image. I don't know how to explain it right now. I think it's worth to probably follow a guy on Instagram, and we'll try to work on a post to have guidelines that explains how to use them. As of now, I can't explain it properly, and I have to make sure that, because it's lines of code that you have to write into the image, basically. We'll try to have a guide for that. It's worth doing that for sure.
Yeah, so something that needs looking at. So just a reminder to everyone, if you've got a question, for a general question or a specific question for any of our guests, please type that into the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen next to raised hand. So if you want to ask us a question, please put something in there. There's been a huge amount to sort of take in today, but I think it's been really valuable having all these different perspectives and looking at these different sets of everything. So looking at the legal aspects, what groups like AGI are doing, how individuals are reacting, as Nurgül's pointed to us. But also it's great from Paolo hearing about, well, what it has been like, what might be coming up down the line. And of course, both the main issues, the unauthorized use of our images and the legal sort of implications of all that, and how AI will impact the illustration industry through its use by illustrators and potentially clients, are things that are going to play out over time, but that time might be quite short. We don't know how, there's legislation moving, but legislation always works much more slowly than the companies who are whizzing ahead with making their generative sites attractive to people. We've got a question here from KO asking, who do we have to follow on Instagram to see those guidelines to protect your images? Well, if we get some guidelines, we will put them on the EIF website. Maybe that's something that we can all look into potentially as organizations. We haven't currently got those to hand, but we'll look into getting that. Another question from one of our attendees who's saying, thank you, Francesco. Besides Glaze, can't I just send myself my idea illustration via mail? And from this moment on, it's saved and a later very similar AI copy can be sued? Another question, how can I even identify the AI who copied my illustration? Is there an artist name written like artist specific AI company? I'm not quite sure I understand that. What happens if I would copy AI for making, for example, fun of it? Is it protected? It's not a species, is it? Well, as actually Karina pointed out, there is no copyright in artificially created images, so no one can stop you doing anything with an AI generated image. I'm not, I think sending yourself, well, Francesco, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I would say sending yourself a picture doesn't really help in terms of an AI generated artwork looking like yours on the whole. Karina talked about this, didn't you? Maybe that's something you can talk about, but it's the style of your work. I think it's fairly, in my understanding, it's fairly unlikely that an image that really looks exactly like one of yours is likely to be generated by AI.
Unless you're Steve McCurry and you are talking about like Afghan Girl, of course. So since AIs work on statistical parameters, if your image is heavily featured online, probably yes, something similar will come out. But not really. I'd say Glaze doesn't work in order to make lawsuits in the future. Glaze works so that your image cannot be used in the training of an AI, and in fact, what Glaze does is basically make the AI degenerate in a way. It interferes with the machine learning process, basically. So that's the kind of protection that it offers. But yeah, no, it's really difficult that something that the output of an AI looks like one of your works. That's why our focus is not on the output, but on the input. So the data that are being fed to an AI. That's the easier part to regulate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we've got a question from Matt asking, oh, just shut up and disappeared, hang on. So a question for Nurgül. When we think about the surveys you showed, can we say that the old generations are kind of pessimistic about their art being stolen, while younger generations don't have much problem with it, rather showing excitement about the upcoming technology? Is that your takeaway from the survey, do you think?
Yeah, well, actually, it's one of the point outs that we need to get into our considerations when we look at the younger generation. They seem quite excited about AI, and I'm hoping that all this young generation artist community is also aware that we should use AI just like one of our brushes or Photoshop. It should not replace our creativity as a human creative people. So this is a fine. There is a fine line right there. That's what I wanted to attract our attention to. There are all these societies and governments and other companies. Everybody is involved in this new era of digital age of creative world. But the main power is actually in each individual. It's on us actually. How we unite, how we make a big voice and know about what is our rights and how we should protect our rights in this process. So each individuals, I think it is not negative thing that younger generation is quite enthusiastic about using AI in their artistic life. As far as we keep the awareness and the responsibility of not letting the AI generate art replacing the creativity of humankind. AI should always stay there as our assisting tool for creativity. That's very important, and every single individual has the responsibility to have this awareness, So this is one of the reasons why we are doing all these events and everything. And
Yeah.
yes, elderly people, and when I talk with many illustrators in our community as well, they have this lack of usage for the applications. You know, the new technology, the tools are really overwhelming for many illustrators. So younger generation is much comfortable using and adapting themselves. And as far as if they can get advantage of using it to save time and use it as their assistant, as a tool, yeah, it's a life-saving thing as well. You know, we have AI in every part of in our lives at the moment. For instance, Samsung just developed an AI app. You just take a photo of a dish when you're eating it. It just gives you the whole description of how you can cook that meal. I think it's great, you know. The technology is not that bad thing all the time, but yeah, we just need to know the borders and yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nurgül. We've got quite a few questions coming. I'm conscious that we're kind of nearing the end of our time. But next one up is, are there any tools that we can use to detect whether an image has been generated with AI? I mean, there is talk, obviously, about labeling outputs from AI, which is ongoing, of course. I'm not sure if there's anything actually out there. If anyone might know.
Can I ask a question as well to us?
Yeah, can we just finish this one and just see if anyone's got an answer for?
Yeah, I think I just have something to add. For a while, a popular tool has been Hive AI, but don't use it if you know it, because, well, first of all, it's easy to trick it. You just need to turn an image 90 degrees and it doesn't detect it as AI made anymore. And if you upload, and if you're a free user, so if you use it for free, and if you upload an image that it's actually not AI, they use it to train their own generative AI. So if you know that, don't use it. That was a popular tool a while ago, but yeah, better to avoid that. Just that.
Yeah. Tobias, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, just short. I don't know a specific tool, but I think in the future there will be like watermarks. There are like ongoing things that, yeah, AI could do watermark itself pretty good, I think. So hopefully that will be a thing for the future.
Yeah, great. Another question from KO saying, is it possible to experiment with AI without giving away your images? So say if you upload your own images into a platform that allows you to create something based on those images. My understanding is that the platform then set the terms and conditions say that the platform will be able to include your images within their data set. I don't know if anyone else has got any further information on that. It's quite likely they would do, of course, they want your images. But
OpenAI in the beginning, on DALL-E, they had the statements that you give the image to them if you use it, and now they just don't mention it anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Midjourney says that if you upload stuff, they keep it on their database.
I think it's also important to challenge the way we use words. Like experimenting with AI, as Tobias said before, it's something that is possible to do in an ethical, even in an ethical way, not using others' images. You can't do that if you're using certain AI services, which is what these companies are doing. But we should pay attention to not mistake certain specific AI services, which are like three mainly: Midjourney, OpenAI, and Stable Diffusion, with AI in general and generative AI in general. Generative art is something that has been done for decades at this point, and Midjourney is just a way to do generative art. It's not generative art in itself.
Yeah. Well, and one of the questions from Gabriella was actually, do you have information about which are the custom trained AIs that us illustrators can use to train them using our own work in private ways, not offering our data? I don't know if you've got any names you want to give out. We have to find that ourselves. We've got maybe two more questions here. We had one about or music, which maybe isn't our center here, but someone's asking, is there something like Glaze, but for musical content? I'm not aware of that, but somebody's hopefully working on it, see if that's happening. And we've got a question from Keith, who I assume is in the UK, saying, is legislation happening in the UK similar to the EU? And if so, how can illustrators get involved in lobbying? Unfortunately, no, it's not happening in the same way in the EU. We have been involved in discussions through the British Copyright Council and the Creators' Rights Alliance, who we're members of, with the Intellectual Property Office in the UK. And as you've been hearing from our speakers, the government's focus is completely on users. It's not on the creators whose work is being exploited to generate all the outputs. So unfortunately, sadly, it's no surprise that yeah, most governments don't come from a starting point of, oh, what about the creators? You know, what are they thinking about this and where's it going to go? But yeah, if you remember, Keith, brilliant. We'll be keeping in touch about this stuff. If you're not signed up to our newsletter, or maybe join us, and we'll keep people informed about what we're doing in the UK. If there's one more question, we could do that one. We've got, seems to be lots coming in. So Karkazan is saying the discourse around AI and illustration is a rights-based issue. Once artists' rights are respected and protected, then there is no need for outcry. But we are in a LimeWire situation right now, and even that got fixed. LimeWire, I think, being the music downloading situation. Any other questions? Yeah, a comment about the UK government just seeing the money signs for AI, not the right-based issues of creators. Yes, it's I suspect every government would probably be thinking along those lines. Elsa's saying she missed a question. Okay, sorry, yeah. So Elsa's got a question for Francesco. How long do you think it will take for companies to step down from systematic scraping with the help of the AI Act and lawsuits? Because it may not be sustainable for some illustrators to subsist in the current environment. Is there a time frame?
It's not easy to answer. I have a controversial answer on this, and something that in a year might be bite me back. Right now, these companies are not making that much money. Maybe OpenAI a little bit more, but these things, these AI services, cost a lot of money, a lot of energy, and it's difficult for them to make profit because, for example, images, it's not exactly the more profitable way to make money for a company. So if you speak just about stable diffusion, it's possible that their idea was in fact to use images as a Trojan horse to enter the market and then start doing more profitable things. Thing is that these companies are facing a lot of backlash, a lot of potential lawsuits, a lot of potential laws, and I think that it is possible that in a year from now, even if the AI Act is still in the works, even if the lawsuits are still in the works, in many ways we might look at these AIs as we look now at things like the metaverse or NFTs. I know it's controversial because the usual narration is that these things are here to stay and we have to accept them. But I'm not sure about that because a lot of things about these AIs are more hype than anything else, are more tech hype than anything else. And in a lot of ways, it resembles NFTs and metaverse in the way these companies are presenting these products as something that something that actually doesn't exist, as something more technological and complex than what they actually are. So since they're facing a lot of backlash, since there's the copyright issue, since not all companies want to use them openly because they face backlash from the public and they can't register them, and since there are a lot of legal and ethical issues, it's possible that in a year or so it won't be as sustainable as it is anymore for these companies to keep hosting these websites, and it's possible that they will have to step down a little bit. I don't know, it's controversial. I know in a year you can come back to me and say, you were wrong, now AI rules our life. But I think it's possible. We are seeing that. I think we are seeing that trend. It might not seem so, but I think we are going in that direction.
Well, I like that. I like that viewpoint. That's really interesting, and that's an interesting way to finish off on. We're a little bit over time, but thank you so much for all of you coming along to listen to this on our excellent panel. Paolo, Tobias, Nurgül, Anna, Karina, and Francesco. It's been delightful hearing from you. Thank you so much for giving your time and energies to present all this to us. So I hope everyone's leaving with a bit more information, understanding of artificial intelligence and its challenges and things to maybe embrace. And do check out the EIF website. Like I said, we'll be making this recording available shortly. No massive time frame yet, but hopefully fairly soon on the EIF website. So do check it out, and also have a look at the EGAR one and donate if you wish to. The GoFundMe, I put the link in there for in the chat, so have a look at that. So once again, big thank you, and goodbye. Enjoy the rest of your afternoons, and don't worry about AI. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.